The breaking news, it started quietly, almost too quietly for something this explosive. According to Trump himself, Sean Diddy Combs didn't make a public plea or send lawyers to speak for him. Instead, he allegedly went straight to the source. A private letter. One-on-one.
No cameras. No statements.
Just words on paper asking for one of the most powerful favors on the planet. That alone was enough to stun people. A global music icon, facing serious consequences, reportedly reaching out directly to the President of the United States. Not through intermediaries. Not through public pressure. But personally. Trump didn't hesitate to confirm it either. He told reporters flat out that Diddy asked me for a pardon, making it clear this wasn't some rumor floating online. According to him, it happened. And it happened through a letter. But the moment things went from shocking to suspicious was what Trump said next. When pressed for more details, instead of explaining or clarifying, he paused and teased the room. "Oh, would you like to see that letter?" It sounded almost casual, almost playful. Except there was one problem. The letter was never shown. No copy.
No proof.
No details. Just the claim, and then silence. And that silence would end up saying far more than the letter itself ever could. What made this situation feel even stranger wasn't just the alleged request, it was how casually Trump treated it once it was out in the open. Instead of shutting the question down or redirecting the conversation, he leaned into it. Almost like he knew the reaction alone would do the damage. That offhand comment about showing the letter didn't feel accidental. It felt calculated. Because once those words were out there, people immediately started asking the obvious question. If the letter exists, why not show it? And if it doesn't, why bring it up at all? Trump didn't explain what was written, how emotional it was, or what Diddy actually said. He didn't confirm when it was sent or why. He simply left the story hanging, unfinished, unresolved, and impossible to ignore. That lack of detail sent social media into overdrive. Some people took Trump at his word. Others weren't so sure. Rumors started swirling that the letter might have been more desperate than anyone expected. Others speculated it could have been brief and strategic, carefully worded to avoid sounding like a confession. None of that has been verified, but the curiosity was already out of control. And then there was Trump's final stance. Despite openly acknowledging the request, he made it clear he had no intention of granting a pardon.
No hesitation. No sympathy.
Just a flat refusal. That sharp contrast, acknowledging the letter while dismissing its impact, only made the whole exchange feel colder and somehow more personal. The reason this moment hit so hard wasn't just because a letter was mentioned, it was because of who sent it, who received it, and what it represented. Requests like this aren't unheard of, but they almost never surface this openly, especially not when the person asking has spent decades carefully controlling their public image. For many people, the idea that Diddy would personally reach out like this felt like a line he never planned to cross. It also shattered the assumption that influence always works quietly behind the scenes. This wasn't a vague rumor leaked by insiders or an anonymous source hinting at private conversations. The claim came directly from Trump, spoken out loud on the record. That alone changed the dynamic. Once it was said publicly, it became impossible to walk back and impossible for fans or critics to ignore. Then there was the power imbalance that made people uneasy. A former president openly revealing that a famous figure asked him for mercy raised uncomfortable questions about how justice, fame, and political access intersect. Some viewers saw it as desperation. Others saw it as confidence, believing the right name, at the right time, might still open doors that are closed to everyone else. But perhaps the most shocking part was what the request suggested beneath the surface. Asking for a pardon isn't symbolic. It implies urgency. It implies fear of what comes next. And for someone who built a career on control, dominance, and leverage, that single reported letter flipped the narrative overnight. What caught many people off guard was realizing this wasn't the first time Trump had been asked about stepping in. Months before the letter ever became public, the idea of a potential pardon had already been floating around, quietly, but deliberately. During a press briefing, Trump was directly questioned about whether he would consider helping Diddy. At the time, his response felt noticeably different. Back then, there was no mention of letters.
No dramatic pauses.
No teasing comments. Trump didn't confirm any personal outreach, and he didn't completely shut the door either. His answer left room for interpretation, which only added fuel to the speculation. Some took it as political caution. Others saw it as strategic silence. That contrast is what made this new revelation feel so jarring. Somewhere between that earlier moment and now, the tone shifted. What once sounded distant and hypothetical suddenly became personal and specific. A general question turned into a direct claim. And that raised a new wave of curiosity. What happened in between? Because if the letter came after that earlier question, it suggests the conversation didn't end there. And if it came before, then why wasn't it mentioned at the time? Trump hasn't clarified the timeline, and without it, people are left filling in the gaps themselves. Once the timeline came into focus, the conversation shifted fast. People weren't just asking what was said in the letter anymore, they were asking when it was sent. And that detail, or lack of it, is where things started to feel uncomfortably convenient. Trump never confirmed a date. No month. No year. Just the implication that the request existed at some point behind closed doors. That uncertainty opened the door to a flood of online theories. Some reports claim the letter may have surfaced only after legal pressure intensified. Others suggest it could have been sent earlier, long before the public ever suspected a connection. None of that has been verified, but the timing alone was enough to keep the rumor mill spinning. What made it even more intriguing was how the story emerged right as public attention around Diddy's situation was peaking again. The coincidence felt hard to ignore. Fans and critics alike started speculating about whether the revelation was intentional, strategic, or simply unavoidable. Was this Trump choosing transparency? Or was it a subtle power move, reminding everyone who still gets asked for favors when stakes are high? Without dates or documentation, the narrative stayed suspended in uncertainty. And in moments like this, uncertainty becomes the story. The unanswered questions began overshadowing the facts themselves, turning a single comment into a much larger controversy. While Trump spoke freely, Diddy's camp stayed completely silent. When reporters reached out, his spokesperson declined to comment, leaving a vacuum that social media rushed to fill. Every pause, every unanswered question, only made the story feel bigger than it already was. In situations like this, silence isn't just quiet, it's a statement. People started reading into every absence, every non-response, turning it into its own kind of drama. The contrast couldn't have been starker. On one side, Trump was openly confirming the request, teasing the letter, and publicly rejecting it. On the other, Diddy's team said nothing at all.
No explanation. No denial.
No hint of strategy. Just quiet. That silence left fans and critics guessing about motives, emotions, and even the contents of the letter itself. In the world of high-profile requests, silence often speaks louder than words. And in this case, it made people question everything from timing to intention, leaving viewers wondering if the story we were being told was only a small piece of a much larger picture. The biggest question everyone keeps asking is simple. Will we ever see the letter? Trump teased it, but so far, nothing has surfaced.
No leaks. No screenshots.
No confirmation beyond his words. And that has only fueled the curiosity. When something is hinted at but withheld, the imagination tends to fill in the blanks, and in this case, the blanks are enormous. Why wouldn't the letter be revealed if it exists? Some speculate it could contain careful wording meant to preserve Diddy's image, while others think it might reveal desperation or urgency that the public wasn't meant to see. And if it never surfaces, the intrigue only grows. Every unanswered question becomes a story in itself, dominating headlines, tweets, and online debates. It's also possible Trump used the letter as a subtle power play. By mentioning it without showing it, he maintains control of the narrative, keeping both the press and the public guessing. Meanwhile, Diddy's silence adds another layer of mystery. Together, these moves have created a perfect storm of speculation, an unfolding drama with no clear ending.